Hey everyone, it's NB here, and today we're talking about something that feels a little counterintuitive, but trust me, it's a game changer. While most people are packing away their garden tools and settling in for winter, we're going to get our hands dirty. Because December, this is it. This is the secret moment that shapes your entire spring garden. Most gardeners think the season is over, that the soil is asleep, and that nothing can happen until the thaw. But experienced growers know a powerful secret. December isn't an ending. It's a launch pad. It's the quiet, strategic period where you can set the stage for your most successful year ever. Starting seeds now, in the coldest, darkest month, is how you get ahead of the curve. It's not just about getting a few weeks head start, it's about creating a fundamental shift in your garden's entire life cycle. When you give specific seeds the cool, slow start they crave, you're building resilience right into their DNA. This process encourages deeper root systems, stronger stems, and a natural resistance to the pests and diseases that plague spring-sown plants. If you've ever wished your garden produced earlier, stronger, and more consistently, December seed starting is your hidden accelerator. So, in this video I'm going to walk you through 10 specific seeds that you should absolutely be starting right now. We'll cover exactly why December is their perfect germination window, and how to give them the ideal conditions indoors. Forget waiting for the last frost date to scramble. This year, you're going to step into spring with a tray full of robust, garden-ready seedlings that will leave your neighbors wondering what your secret is. Let's get into it. First up on our list is a classic cool weather crop, spinach. The reason we start this one in December is simple. Spinach seeds actually prefer a chill to germinate properly. They struggle in warm soil, often leading to spotty or failed germination if you wait until spring. By starting them now, you're giving them exactly what they want. I like to use a really light, fluffy mix for this. Think 1 part compost for nutrients, 1 part cocoa peat for moisture retention, and 1 part perlite or coarse sand to ensure it doesn't get compacted. This combination prevents the soil from becoming waterlogged, which is the enemy of tiny spinach seedlings. Once your trays are filled, press the seeds about a ½ inch deep into the mix. Don't pack the soil down too hard, just a gentle firming is all you need. After planting, give them a good watering, but not with plain water. I always use a diluted liquid seaweed solution. This gives them a gentle nudge of micronutrients right from the start and encourages robust root development. Keep the soil consistently moist like a wrung-out sponge, and you'll see those first true leaves pop up, ready to thrive in the cool months ahead. Next, let's talk about parsley. If you've ever tried to sow parsley directly in the garden, you know it can be painfully slow to germinate, sometimes taking weeks. That's because it too loves a long, cool germination period. Starting it indoors in December completely removes the guesswork and frustration. You can control the environment perfectly, ensuring the seeds have the steady, cool temperatures they need without competing with weeds or facing unpredictable weather. A simple windowsill in a cool room can work, but for the most consistent results, I really recommend placing the tray under grow lights. This controlled start doesn't just speed up the timeline, it builds a much stronger plant. By the time your last frost date rolls around, you won't be planting a tiny, delicate seed. Instead, you'll have a well-established seedling with a vigorous root system, ready to explode with growth as soon as it hits the garden soil. This head start means you'll be harvesting bunches of fresh parsley weeks, if not months, earlier than your neighbors who waited to direct sow. It's a perfect example of how a little patience in winter pays huge dividends in spring. Alright, let's tackle a plant that many gardeners have a love-hate relationship with, cilantro. The biggest complaint I hear is that it bolts, or goes to flower, the moment the weather gets warm. Well, December seed starting is your secret weapon against bolting. Cilantro is a crop that genuinely despises heat. When you sow it in the warmth of late spring, its internal clock immediately starts ticking, telling it to reproduce as fast as possible before the summer heat arrives. This leads to weak, leggy growth, and a very short harvest window. By starting your cilantro seeds now, in the cool, stable environment of your indoor setup, you're essentially tricking the plant. The slow, cool germination encourages it to focus all its energy on developing a deep, strong root system and lush, flavorful leaves, not flowers. It grows slower, yes, but it grows stronger. When you transplant these robust seedlings out in early spring, they are far better equipped to handle the transition and will give you a much longer, more continuous harvest before the summer heat finally triggers that bolting instinct. Now, carrots are one that might surprise you. Most guides will tell you to only direct sow them because they hate having their roots disturbed, and that's true, but we can work around it with a little bit of technique. The key is to start them in deep containers. I'm talking about root trainers, or even just deeper than average seed starting cells. This gives that crucial taproot enough room to grow straight down without hitting the bottom of the tray and getting bent or forked, which is what causes those weird, misshapen carrots. The soil here is non-negotiable. It has to be incredibly light and loose. A fine seed starting mix, maybe with some extra sand sifted in, is perfect. Plant the seeds shallowly and maintain very steady moisture. Carrots will not germinate in dry soil. The real trick is the timing of transplanting. You need to move them into the garden while the seedlings are still very young, well before that taproot has a chance to reach the bottom of the cell. This delicate process gives you a huge advantage, allowing you to establish perfectly spaced, healthy carrots that will mature weeks earlier. Let's move on to another root vegetable, beets. Much like carrots, beets benefit immensely from an early, controlled start. A beet seed is actually a cluster of several seeds in a dried fruit, which is why you often get clumps of seedlings even when you think you planted them one by one. Dealing with this in the garden can be a pain. You have to thin them out, and it's easy to disturb the roots of the seedlings you want to keep. Starting them in December indoors makes this process so much more precise and gentle. When those little clusters germinate in your seed trays, you can take your time and carefully snip out the weaker seedlings with a pair of small scissors, leaving the single strongest one in each cell. This perfect spacing from day one eliminates root competition and allows the remaining beet to channel all its energy into developing a large, round, and sweet root. When you transplant these perfectly spaced, robust seedlings in the spring, they take off immediately, leading to a much more uniform and high-quality harvest than you'd ever get from the chaos of direct sowing. Cabbage is a fantastic crop for a December start, and the reason is all about building resilience. Cabbages are heavy feeders and can be magnets for pests like cabbage loopers and aphids. Giving them a long, cool start indoors allows them to develop an incredibly deep and extensive root system before they ever face the pressures of the open garden. This robust foundation makes the plant far more efficient at drawing up nutrients and water, which in turn makes it healthier and less appealing to pests. A stressed plant is a target. A strong plant is a fortress. To give them an extra boost, I like to water my cabbage seedlings with a weak compost tea about once a week during their germination and early growth phase. This isn't about heavy fertilization, it's about introducing beneficial microbes into the soil right from the beginning. These microbes form a symbiotic relationship with the roots, helping the plant access nutrients and ward off soil-borne diseases. By the time you transplant them, you have these incredibly vigorous dark green seedlings that are primed to form tight, dense heads and shrug off many of the common problems that frustrate spring sowers. If you want big, beautiful bulb onions, you have to play the long game, and that game starts in December. Onions are daylight sensitive, meaning the length of the day triggers them to switch from growing green tops to forming a bulb. By starting them from seed indoors now, you give them the maximum possible time to grow as much green foliage as possible before that bulbing trigger occurs in late spring or early summer. The rule of thumb is that for every green shoot you see above ground, there's a corresponding ring in the onion bulb. More shoots equal more rings, which means a bigger onion. The key to starting onions is a very light, fluffy soil and consistent moisture. Their root systems are fine and shallow, so they can't be allowed to dry out. Use a high-quality seed starting mix and sow the seeds fairly densely in a flat or tray. Don't worry about heavy feeding early on. Too much nitrogen will just produce weak, floppy growth. You just want steady, moderate growth. As they grow, you can even give them a haircut with scissors down to about 3 inches tall to encourage thicker, stockier growth. This long, patient start is the absolute key to avoiding small, disappointing bulbs. Everyone loves homegrown lettuce, but the complaint I often hear is that it can turn bitter and tough pretty quickly. The secret to sweet, crispy leaves that last longer in the garden is, you guessed it, a cool start. Lettuce seeds, especially certain varieties, can enter thermal dormancy if the soil is too warm, meaning they simply won't sprout. Germinating them in the controlled, cool conditions of a December indoor setup guarantees excellent germination rates. But more importantly, it sets the tone for the plant's entire life. This cool, slow start encourages the plant to produce leaves with a higher water and sugar content, which is exactly what gives you that crisp texture and sweet flavor. A plant that is stressed by heat from the beginning will have a tougher, more bitter taste as a defense mechanism. By starting in December, you'll have big, healthy transplants ready to go into the garden the moment the conditions are right in early spring. They'll mature before the intense heat arrives, giving you a significantly longer harvest window of perfectly crisp, sweet lettuce. Broccoli is a crop that can be incredibly rewarding or incredibly frustrating, and the difference often comes down to timing. The goal is to get a large, tight central crown, and maybe some smaller side shoots afterward. Heat is the enemy of this process. If a broccoli plant experiences heat stress as it's trying to form that main head, it will often button, producing a tiny, premature crown, or the head will be loose and taste bitter. Starting your seeds in December is the ultimate strategy to avoid this. Giving broccoli a long, slow, cool start indoors allows it to build a massive frame, a thick, sturdy stalk and large solar panel-like leaves, before it even thinks about producing a crown. This huge, well-established plant has the energy reserves to produce a much larger, denser head when the time is right. You'll transplant these monsters into the garden in early spring, and they'll be so far ahead in their development that they will form and mature their main crown well before the summer heat has a chance to interfere, ensuring a sweet, tender, and impressive harvest. Finally, let's talk about peas. While peas are often direct sown, giving them an indoor start in December can lead to a dramatically improved harvest. The goal with peas is to get them growing and climbing as early as possible. An early start indoors, especially in deeper cells, or root trainers, allows them to establish a deep, powerful root system. When you transplant them out, they won't waste any time acclimating. They'll start climbing their trellis almost immediately. This is a huge advantage over direct sown seeds that have to germinate and establish roots in cold, sometimes wet, spring soil. This head start translates directly into more pods and an earlier harvest. Because the plants are more mature, they'll begin flowering and setting pods sooner, and they'll often produce for a longer period before the heat shuts them down. You'll be picking sweet, crisp sugar snap or English peas, while other gardeners are still watching their pea shoots struggle to break through the soil. It's a simple change in timing that can double your harvest and bring that first taste of spring to your table weeks earlier than you thought possible. So, there you have it. 10 seeds that will give you a massive head start on the spring season. As you care for these little seedlings over the next couple of months, remember the fundamentals. Your main goal is to maintain steady moisture in the trays. You want the soil to be damp, never soggy. Drowning your seedlings is just as dangerous as letting them dry out. Good airflow is also crucial, so a small fan set on low can help prevent damping off disease and strengthen the plants. If you're using grow lights, keep them just a few inches, say 20 to 25 centimeters, above the tops of the trays and run them for about 12 hours a day. Here's a pro tip for developing strong, stocky plants. Gently brush the tops of your seedlings with your hand a couple of times a day. This mimics the wind and signals the plants to grow shorter, thicker stems, making them much hardier for transplanting. When that time comes, gardeners in mild climates can move these out in late winter, while those in colder zones should wait until after the last hard frost, hardening them off for a week first. This simple process of gradually exposing them to the outdoors is key to preventing transplant shock. This is what strategic gardening is all about, working with nature's cycles instead of fighting against them. It's about understanding that the work you do now, in the quiet of winter, is what creates abundance later. If you want a year where your garden feels effortless, December is where it begins. Start these 10 seeds now, and your spring garden will not just be productive, it will be unstoppable. If you enjoyed this guide and want more strategies that turn ordinary gardens into thriving ecosystems, make sure to subscribe to Nature's Blueprint and share this video with fellow growers who want to get ahead before the season starts.